But joining us right now, he's the tax man, Grover Norquist, president of Americans for Tax Reform. Brand new book, End the IRS Before It Ends Us. Well, that's just crazy talk, Grover Norquist. You can't end the IRS. That's what I keep hearing whenever anyone suggests it. So what's your plan?
Well, the plan is first to take a look, and the book, End the IRS Before It Ends Us, starts as a history of how we got where we are. We started in this country before we were a country, 1774. We were paying 1 to 2% of our income, 1 to 2% of our income in all taxes. The British in London were paying 20% because running an empire is expensive. But we were paying 1 to 2, tremendous growth. People came here. Somehow we let it slide over time up to 30% of our national incomes taken by state, local, federal government. Federal government takes 20% of everything we make. How do we get back down towards 1 to 2%? We didn't have an income tax in this country until 1913. There was one briefly in the Civil War, but other than that, we had no income tax. And I think if we, and I lay out a plan, which is several dozen proposals that are all out there, to dramatically reduce the size and cost of government, because if you want lower taxes, you have to have a smaller government. And I think we can get there. We'll keep moving till we get there. But that's the direction to move in.
It is quite shocking when you look at the statistics on this. I mean, tax day is April 15th. Everybody knows that. Got to pay your taxes by April 15th. But Tax Freedom Day is actually April 24th, which means that most Americans work from January 1st until April 24th just for the government. That's a shocking statistic.
It really is, and it's completely unnecessary. There are an awful lot of things that the federal government or local governments could step aside. We have a taxi cab government in an Uber world. A lot of what the government says it needed to do for us was because we were too stupid to take care of ourselves. We didn't have the information to make these decisions. Now we do. You know more about an Uber driver than you ever knew about a taxi cab driver who had a government license. There's just a lot of things that technology allows us to do for ourselves and our families, and there's no reason for the government to step in and help us.
Grover, a lot of the corruption that gets uncovered in the U.S. government stems from the tax code. I mean, it's legendary how big it is and how arcane it is. And what we saw with the IRS scandal from, well, it's still going on. I shouldn't date it from 2 years ago. It started 2 years ago, but it's still going on with Lois Lerner. It shows you how the IRS can use the law to bully individual Americans and really intimidate them. Would it be a good step toward your goal of ending the IRS? Would it be a good step to sort of chuck the code as it is now, keep an IRS, but keep it flatter, simpler, and just go for a basic rate where people don't have to get into all of the shenanigans that they do?
That is step one. We need to get to a single tax rate that taxes income one time at one rate. I'm originally from Massachusetts prior to emigrating to the United States. And in Massachusetts, it's nice there, but I left. I wanted to come to America. In Massachusetts, by constitutional amendment, there is a flat rate tax. You cannot have a graduated or progressive income tax in Massachusetts or, by the way, Illinois. And in those states, because everybody pays the same rate, the Kennedy kids and you, when the government wants more money, they have to look everybody in the eye and say, I've got a really good idea. It's so good, you're all paying for it. Not many good ideas are that good. And it keeps rates low, simply because the government can't divide us into different groups and mug us one at a time. We need to wrestle the IRS. You talk about the corruption. There are 7 pieces of legislation that your listeners might want to keep an eye open for that will be voted on this week. From now until Friday, around April 15th, to rein in the abuses of the IRS. The Taxpayer Bill of Rights Act by Peter Roskam. The administration, there's a second one, the administration has sent letters to conservatives who contribute to conservative causes saying, we think your contribution to a group might need to pay a 25% gift tax. Well, that's supposed to be for the Kennedys who give the money to their grandchildren to get around the death tax.
Yeah.
Not for people who make a contribution to the American Conservative Union. And they didn't send those letters to liberals. First of all, it's nonsense. It's not the law. They sent them to conservatives to scare them out of being active politically. A third bill they're looking at will stop guys at the IRS from putting your data and on their personal emails. You know what Hillary Clinton was doing with our state secrets, the IRS does with your personal data. No private emails should be involved with people at the IRS at work. People should have full information when the IRS goes after people on what they're doing. They argue that what's supposed to keep your tax data secret, the reason they can't level with us about how they abused the Tea Party movement, well, to tell you how many groups we went after would be to violate their privacy, right? They've already been in there inside their organization, stripping of their privacy, but to confess what they did, that would be a problem. So there's some real opportunities to begin. I think all these 7 bills will pass.
All right. I'm sorry. I want to get you to weigh in on politics, if I could, for a moment.
Sure.
I mean, as the president of the Americans for Tax Reform, you've got some Republicans out there. You got Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, Marco Rubio announces today. Hillary Clinton announced yesterday. Your thoughts?
Well, the biggest, starkest difference is that the Democrats have one candidate from 20 years ago who married into the business, and that's the one person they can run. If she decided to go be a monk somewhere and wasn't running, who would they run? What governor, what senator has the stature and the capability of running? The Republicans have 6 or 7, 8 or 9 governors, senators who passed the laugh test on looking to run nationally. I mean, you go around the country, you've got Rick Perry of Texas, longest-serving governor and one of the most successful states. Without Texas, we wouldn't have created any jobs during Obama's recovery. He's running. You've got Rick Scott in Wisconsin, who's dramatically revived that state and gotten rid of a lot of the real corruption and public sector unionism there. Model for all 57 states to do the same thing. Jeb Bush in Florida hasn't been governor for a while, but was a cutting-edge governor when he was, cut taxes a lot, and did school choice reforms. Chris Christie, Democrat state, wrestled $130 billion out of the unfunded liabilities in that state's pension, vetoed every tax increase the Democrats passed. You know, in a tough state, he was a tough governor. Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, all folks with strong constituencies.
But Grover,
nationally.
none of these people are women, and it's time for a woman. See, your argument is lost on all of us, Grover.
Well, Carly Fiorina is running and would be a serious and actually would be a great candidate, led woman out of the business community, Hewlett-Packard.
But I'm only partially joking. But really, that is the argument. You said, who else would they have? Forget about who else they have. Even with the one person they do have, the only argument they seem to have is it's time for a woman. How do you combat that without waging a war on women, Grover?
Well, I think what Republicans need to do is let somebody else make the case that there's something very silly about running Assad, Kim, Clinton. We don't have
Bush.
married. Well, that's a boat anchor Bush has to deal with, but he actually has some accomplishments as a governor.
Right.
This is a person who's won personal accomplishments. She was elected because she was related to her. She was first lady because she married Bill Clinton.
All right.
She was elected to the Senate because she was married to Bill Clinton. She was given a job as Secretary of State because she was married to Bill Clinton and didn't acquit herself very well. I mean, she was the person in charge of fixing Russia and the Middle East, and that's not exactly gone according to plan.
And there's more. Yeah, I know, Grover, but we are out of time. Thanks so much for joining us as always. And again, the book is End the IRS Before It Ends Us.